A game starring ninjas on the Neo-Geo, and it wasn't made by ADK. Likelier than you might think. Hi there, I'm Roger Retrogaming Puppet, and this is Obscure Old Games. We've got a Summer of the 100 Mega Shock going on around here, so yeah, I think that means I need to cover a Neo-Geo game for this show. And, hey, why not make it extra obscure? We're gonna go with a game that even we didn't know about existing until just a couple of years ago. Ganryu. Well, I gotta tell you, I looked high and low for a game that would fit well as a companion to Joe talking about Magician Lord. And let me say, the Neo-Geo is surprisingly light on action platformers for a system that came out in 1991. And to be clear, I consider Metal Slug and Cyberlip to be run-and-guns, which, yes, are action platformers, but they're a specific kind of action platformer, and not exactly what I was looking for here. Besides, you don't really think Joe would let me be the one to handle Metal freaking Slug, do ya? At any rate, it's really interesting that on a system with so few of these, one of the best ones would have ended up coming out not near Magician Lord when the Super NES and Genesis were the systems of the day, no, but in 1999, when the genre was effectively dead. Sure, we'd get the occasional masterpiece like Mega Man X4 or Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but looking at the Wikipedia list of notable video game releases of 1999 shows almost no 2D games. And the ones that are there are either portable games, fighting games, or Ogre Battle 64. So yeah, 2D gaming in general, and side-scrolling action games in particular, weren't in a great place at that time, despite some of the most beautiful pixel art games in history coming out that year, including Street Fighter III, Third Strike, Garou, Market of Wolves, and, oh, right, Metal Slug X, arguably the best Metal Slug game. And that isn't even on the stupid Wikipedia list, which I guess goes to illustrate to you just how useless Wikipedia is. But anyways, point is, games like this were rare as hen's teeth back in '99. This game is the very definition of too weird to live, too rare to die. It was developed by Visco, who were pretty steadily developing for nothing but the Neo-Geo by this time, though they would soon after do some direct-to-arcade shooters. The best way I can describe Ganryu is to say that, well, I guess it's like an amped up NES or Super NES action game. Think Ninja Gaiden or Shatterhand, but not actually as good as those. But with Neo-Geo level graphics. And it was straight up ignored by the enthusiast press. Doesn't seem to have been reviewed by any US game mags, and I'm not even sure they mentioned it in any context. The game allows you to choose one of two ninjas at the beginning, Musashi or Suzume. They're both on the same quest, to save Otsu from the evil Kojiro Sasaki. Apparently, Musashi and Kojiro are Japanese historical figures, but no points for guessing this game isn't exactly a history text. If you choose Musashi, you're attempting to save your lover, Otsu, from Kojiro. And if you're Suzume, your sister, Otsu. But either way, the stages and bosses are the same. You're also told on the character select screen that the playable ninjas have different stats, but boy, it sure doesn't feel that way when you play. All the enemies that die in one hit do so for both. 2 hits, same thing, and so on. I guess Suzume feels maybe a tiny bit faster, but it's hard to say for sure. Also, you can forget about using both in a team type of situation because for some reason this game only allows alternating multiplayer. The gameplay involves going to the right mostly, but sometimes to the left, or up or down, and fighting ninjas. And I mean literally just fighting ninjas because there are almost no other enemy types in this game. There are a few birds and I think I saw a frog, but mostly just multicolored ninjas with some variety in how they attack. Now there are 2 hooks to speak of. The first one is literal, a grappling hook you activate with the C button. You can attack with it, which gives longer range than your standard attack, but it is slower. And of course, that isn't the main purpose. You can swing with it, but this aspect feels a bit wasted. Bionic Commando, this ain't. You can only swing from certain structures, and they don't come up often enough for it to really feel like anything but the occasional novelty to break up the action. The other hook is that the stages are pretty sprawling. While there are only 5, each one has multiple routes, and if you're given to multiple playthroughs, you could see some different stuff in each stage. But, well, the game doesn't really incentivize exploring. You're on a time limit, first of all, but beyond that, a lot of the stuff you find, from items to other hostages Kojiro has taken from Kyoto, aren't all that useful. In fact, one of Musashi's power-ups is practically a power down, but we'll get to that in a minute. Without exploring every nook and cranny, the stages are pretty short, and while the game doesn't respawn you exactly where you died like Magician Lord, the checkpoints ain't exactly onerous, you know? And while there wasn't a home version officially released, there is an AES version on the cart that you can trigger with a Unibios or similar tool, and it limits continues and lets you choose the difficulty, so that could extend the replay time, I suppose. There are some power-ups that give the game a bit of variety, but yeah, like I said, one of Musashi's is almost a handicap. Each character has 2 that are unique to them, and 1 that they both get. Musashi gets shurikens and dynamite. The shurikens do, what you expect. But dynamite, boy. To take a reference from a much more popular fan of classic gaming, this is even more useless than the rock in Friday the 13th. It flies in an arc. It only can have 1 on screen at a time, and when it lands, it doesn't have a very big area of effect. Suzume, on the other hand, gets kunai instead of shurikens, which fire 2 at a time, 1 straight ahead, 1 on a 45-degree angle, like the double shot in Gradius. And she gets bombs instead of dynamite, which create a shockwave that travels along the ground until it hits an enemy. Way more useful. The one they share is kind of like Mega Man's Leaf Shield, but made of orbs. And it does quite a bit of damage when you touch the enemy. In fact, taking it with me to the final boss let me defeat him on my very first try. So, if you see that one, make sure you grab it. I do gotta highlight some positives, and let me tell you, this game controls really well for the most part, though the special weapons can have some delay in firing them. Also, the bosses are definitely the highlight. While many of the backgrounds look beautiful as well, far above and beyond what the Super NES or Genesis could do, they lack parallax scrolling, which is weird. So some of them look kind of static, but the bosses, no way. They're well animated, creative, gross. Most of them break apart as you fight them. Definitely the best part from a design standpoint. The cutscenes also look fantastic, although there's not a ton of different art used in them. But hey, maybe at this point you're saying, Raj, man, you're kind of dogging on this game for saying it's one of the best in the genre on the system, and you're not wrong. Like I said, there just aren't many of these on the platform, which is weird for a system originally released in 1999. But it's true, and while this one is one of the best, right up there with Top Hunter, it still feels weak when compared to the games it feels like it's drawing inspiration from. Ninja Gaiden, Castlevania, Shatterhand, Revenge of Shinobi, all of which were like 10 years old by this point, and it's not a patch on any of those. But it makes it even weirder that Visco spent the time on it in 1999. I guess that was kind of their thing by that point. Like, they also made a lot of shoot-'em-ups at the time, and those were not exactly popular at that time either. So yeah, ultimately, if you're a Neo-Geo fiend and you haven't played this one, or you're a fan of any of those games that I mentioned, you gotta check this one out. Just don't go in expecting Ninja Gaiden. Or even Ninja Gaiden 3, really. But still, it's a good time, and of course it's expensive as heck because it's a Neo-Geo game, and it hasn't gotten a re-release digitally, at least, but yeah, actually it did get a Dreamcast port a couple of years ago, so maybe check that version out, or, there's other ways I'm sure you can figure them out. And that does it. I'm Roger the Retro Gaming Puppet, and I'll see you next time, right here on Obscure Old Games. Hey folks, it's Joe. Thanks so much for watching Roger talk about Ganryu. Quick shout out to Cyril from Defunct Games for some research help. Check the description for a link to his channel. If you liked what you saw, please consider sharing this video. It helps a ton, but also do all the other stuff everyone asks you to do, like, comment, subscribe, ring the stupid bell. It does help the channel a lot. If you really liked it, consider supporting on Patreon or via YouTube membership. For just $1 per video, you get early access to new videos, the chance to vote on polls about upcoming videos, your name here with these cool people, and more. There's also a merch link below, as well as affiliate links to small businesses that I personally shop at. In case you missed it, the video on the left is the Magician Lord one, and if you want more of Roger and the Neo-Geo, the video on the right is on 3 Count Bout.